Is it really raining? Does that work? Can I hear things? Ooh, I can hear things.
Did we want this or do we not need it?
No, so I'm gonna turn your sound off. Turn that off. Your sound's off. That's because you're breathing. Does that work? Can I hear things? Ooh, I can hear things. So it's a very sharp delay. Oh, now we're muted.
So to mute this, you press that.
Hi. I'm not hearing any sound.
Hi, Allison.
Hello.
What's up?
Can you hear me and see me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. We're setting everything up right now.
Awesome. Sorry I missed the original call.
No worries.
Getting ready.
How are you?
I'm good. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was all right. It was short. I worked like half the day, so there's that.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Working Black Friday and working yesterday.
Wait, you worked Black Friday and yesterday?
Yeah, it was horrible. We were closed on Thanksgiving too, so it was like super busy.
Oh man, sorry.
But that's the way it goes. We got a bunch of pizza in the background. You should be really jealous right now.
Damn it. Bad thing I'm not being a student anymore. No free pizza all the time.
It's Little Nibs pizza. I don't think you really want it.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
No, probably not.
Kate, what's up, bud?
I'm gonna grab chopstick.
Kate, you're the best. Yeah.
I'm gonna run to the bathroom. Wow. I really should name myself one presentable for this.
Look beautiful.
I took a nap.
Yeah, I wish I took a nap. That would have been a great call. Our focus is solely on Shivani. Right at you. Right at you.
Oh my god. That's what I need. Right.
If only. It's really not that great. It's really right here. Seriously.
Hello.
I'll point it at me. What's up, Joe?
Hi, Joe.
Hey, Brian. Hey, Allison.
What's
How
up?
are you?
Not much. Excited for mid-year.
Yeah, it's in like 3 days. I have to unpack from Thanksgiving and repack for New Orleans. Doing laundry right now.
I invited Jesse and Ben to sit on the left.
Okay.
Have you talked to Jocelyn?
Yeah, she told me that she's not going to be able to come because
Okay,
of
just
the
wanted to
FDA
make
approval.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you knew. It's a little bit of a crazy time for her.
Yeah, I know, that is crazy, but
Yes,
that's awesome.
that's
for her.
understandable.
Yeah, it's exciting. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure.
You want to actually have to work out if you need this one.
I was going to say, yeah.
Battery, 100%.
We're going to use you.
Battery, 100%.
We're turning that off. I'm linking to
Return this.
mine.
Yeah, this one's gonna be off, so then it goes to the other one.
Okay.
Alright, they're gonna be on their way in. Alright, we're just getting some last minute touches and we'll start up.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh, we're able to wait.
Mhm. Yeah, but we can. What time is it? It's still not even so scheduled.
You got this working?
I think so. I need them to like say something. We can see.
It's because this isn't. Right now it should work. Allison, can you do us a favor and test out the sound?
Hello, hello. Testing.
Not
1, 2, 3.
working. Hold on. I'll work on it.
It's definitely paired. It's just.
It's just getting the sound on this one.
We might need your help.
Ooh, you good with this?
It's hers.
So
she definitely knows how to use it. Sound output. Oh, maybe this. I don't know. Yeah, you got it.
when's coming out?
It's definitely connected. Yeah, it says it's paired. Allison, can you say something?
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Probably because it's like coming through the computer. You know what I mean? Like
The sound wasn't coming from your
It's because
computer.
I'm
and
new
so
to this.
she
I'm new to this
muted me.
computer.
Like this should be like.
Oh,
I
now.
could be like on.
But if you turn this off, would it come out of the computer?
Mhm.
Okay. Well then, it should work.
You just want to try it through your computer.
Yeah.
That might work just as well. So unpair this.
Yeah, so it should work.
I could be like on. But if you turn this off, would it come out of the computer? Okay.
Maybe you have to.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
Who is this?
That's me.
Oh.
That's this computer.
I don't know if it sounds worse.
That's me.
Listen how delayed it is.
It's because it's on yours. Yeah, we'll just run through this one.
Yeah, alright. Yeah, it's way too delayed. Right?
Now, can you guys hear us?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So, starting over. Welcome everybody. We're gonna get everything started here. We got some pizza in the back if you guys haven't grabbed any yet. Joe and Allison, sorry, no pizza for you.
That's okay.
We do have Cassie coming on too soon. She might join in a little bit way through. We also have some P4s that are gonna be joining in on the call. If Joe and Allison want to kick it off, you guys want to introduce yourselves and we'll get started over here.
Hey, go ahead, Allison.
Okay. Wait, Brian, do you want to flip it so I can see who's? Thank you. Okay, that's a crowd. Hi, everyone. So my name's Allison. I just graduated in May from Pitt, and I started working at the fellowship in July 1st, and I'm at Merck in global medical affairs, specifically in oncology. So I work with one product, Keytruda, and I really like it there a lot. And I'm actually in a Pennsylvania office, so I am in Philadelphia right now. That's me.
And hi, everyone. My name's Joe Fiore. I graduated in the class of 2014 and was one of the founding members of SIO. I'm also at Merck. I'm on the New Jersey campus in Rahway, New Jersey, and I focus on clinical development. So I think clinical trials, getting drugs approved, that type of thing. And that's in part with the Rutgers Fellowship. And I'm really enjoying what I'm doing.
Was that good?
Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you.
Okay. I'll be on that.
Okay, so do you want to just start with some question and answer? Does anybody have any questions to start?
Oh, thanks for lying.
Okay, go ahead, Naveen.
So, what did you guys decide is there anything in particular that
You repeat the question.
Okay, so his question was what made you decide to go with Rutgers versus doing a different program, and what specifically made you choose the company that you selected?
I can start with that. So I knew that I wanted to do medical affairs, specifically in either like oncology, virology, or immunology. So for me, it was kind of Rutgers had the most programs that I was interested in. So I kind of saw the most opportunity for myself there. And in terms of why I picked the Rutgers program, it's obviously substantially the largest. I thought it would have the most opportunity for me to do things affiliated with the fellowship, and also just the network and how many people you get to work with and meet. That was really appealing for me. And then for my company specifically, it was definitely the people. When I went on site, I just really, really liked everybody that I interviewed with. And now that I work with now, I really like everyone. And then the fellows too. I mean, Joe and then his co-fellow Brittany, they're both really great. And then I lucked out with like my first year co-fellows are all awesome too. So that was kind of the appeal for me. And also working in oncology was, in my position, was what I really liked.
So I definitely advise applying to multiple programs and companies and getting your eggs in multiple baskets. And I was fortunate enough to have on-sites with multiple programs. And when it came down to it, it really was the Rutgers name. People in the pharmaceutical industry know the Rutgers name, and it will help you get your next job and your job after that. We've graduated over 850 alumni, which is just huge. And we already know pharmacy is a small world, but the industry is even smaller. So having that Rutgers name behind you, I think, really is a huge factor. And then also all the opportunities they afford you at Rutgers, the teaching and research and committees and just the network of the current fellows as well as the past fellows. It really was a no-brainer for me. And then for Merck, I think Allison said it very well. How about the people? So I went into mid-year thinking Novartis was my top choice, solely based on the brochure and the description of that clinical development fellowship. But once I interviewed with Merck, sat down with the preceptor and the current fellow on that first Saturday of mid-year, and we instantly clicked. And it's funny, at mid-year, there's only P4s in the room or on the line. It's almost like you have to, and some people call it dating. You always have to, like, you're trying to woo people and they're trying to woo you. I look at it almost like a stock. It's going up and down. You sort of have to assess how you're doing with each company. And even if you thought this is my dream fellowship, if they don't like you, you might have to turn your attention elsewhere. Luckily for me, it was an instant fit for both sides.
Okay.
What's the breakdown in the room of the years, like P4s,
So I
P3s?
think that in the majority that were P3s, there's a P4 on the line, and then there's one P1. So it's
Great.
mostly P3s. Go ahead.
Johnny.
Did you hear her question?
No.
Okay, her question was in regards to rotation. So it's obviously very important to obtain a rotation in industry. But other than that, are there any other rotations that you did that you think influenced your interview process and helped you out at all?
Yes, I can start with that again. I was more recently in my rotation. So something that I definitely like to emphasize to all students is, I know from Pitt, like there really aren't a lot of industry rotations and sometimes it's just difficult to get. But you can really make any rotation work for you and get experiences from it that will help when you're interviewing and applying. But just some other rotations that I think kind of stand out are, I did a managed care rotation with CVS Caremark, and I got like a lot of projects and presentations out of that, which is really helpful. I know a lot of people do FDA rotations, so that also gives you great experiences and can tie in with the industry. I interned at a consulting firm, so PHSI, which is in the Pittsburgh area, and I thought that was a great experience, and they take rotational students. But really, like I said, like even if you're in like a hospital rotation or a community rotation, something that you don't think would like align to industry, if you're upfront with your preceptor and tell them like what you're interested in, what kind of experiences you're looking for, you can really get anything beneficial, like no matter where you are.
Yeah, great points. Definitely, if you can get to the FDA, that's like the gold standard. Like that might even be better than an industry rotation. Any of those agencies, I think we have a medical writing agency. Talk to your parents, see if they know family friends that work in the pharmaceutical industry. Maybe you can start your own industry rotation. And there are some synergies. If you're interested in medical affairs or med info, then doing the drug information rotation is a natural fit. If you're interested in clinical research, you can, like the Hillman Cancer Center has tons of clinical trials going on. I actually work with them here at Merck, so that's you can sort of muscle your way into some clinical trial experience. So if you happen to know what area you're interested in, you can sort of make it fit, or at least spin it that way.
Okay, I have a question. In regards to the interview process at mid-year, could you kind of go through the process at mid-year and then the follow-up interviews additionally?
Joe, you want to take that?
Sure. So in your P4 year, I guess it's coming down to D-Day right now. So you go down to mid-year. This year it's in New Orleans, and everything really starts on, well, let's take a step back. For most programs, everyone except Rutgers, you would request interviews online through a service called PPS, Personal Placement Services, and you can pre-schedule your interviews for the mid-year conference. Rutgers does it a little differently. On Rutgers, on the first Saturday of mid-year, you'll line up in the morning on Saturday and get a number. You'll be waiting online for a while. It gets earlier and earlier every year. You can talk to us offline if you want suggestions on what time to come. So you sign up for interviews. You can pretty much have your pick of the litter, assuming there's space and everything. We sort of suggest staying within 6 or 7 positions within Rutgers, and then outside of Rutgers, you don't want to overwhelm yourself too much, just because if you have back-to-back interviews, you're going to be running all over the place. You don't want to be late for an interview. It pretty much sets you off on the wrong foot. So it's 30-minute interviews, generally. Sometimes it might be a little shorter or longer, but we'll say 30 minutes. First round, you might be talking with some fellows. if you do well, they'll tell you right there, we want to bring you back for a second round interview. So then you schedule a second round, maybe it's with a preceptor or someone else at the company. Hopefully you do well there. Maybe you get a reception invitation. Maybe you even get a third round interview if the company is doing 3 rounds. And if they were doing 3 rounds, you'd come back and talk with a fellowship director or someone else from the company. The interview questions, they're nothing too crazy. We don't expect you to have in-depth knowledge of that area of industry. A lot of it are sort of situational, behavioral questions. Tell me about a time you were a leader. What would you do if you had a conflict? Or tell me about a time you had a conflict and how you resolved it. Things you can Google pretty easily online, behavioral questions. Allison, do you want to pick up from here, maybe with some receptions and then into the post mid-year?
Yeah, definitely. So as Joe mentioned, if you do well after your second round interview, you may be invited to a reception. So each company has a company-specific reception. It's usually on Monday night, where you can go and just talk to more people from the company, talk to the fellows. Just another opportunity for them to get to know you better and you to get to know them better. And then Tuesday night is the Rutgers reception. So usually if you're invited, how it works is if you're invited to at least one company reception, they'll also invite you to the Rutgers reception on Tuesday. And that's where all the partner companies are. And it's just a chance to kind of meet with everybody. And it kind of closes out like the interview process for that recruitment cycle. So then after the interviews and the receptions are over and mid-year is kind of done, you fill out an application online and you have to get all your materials in. So that's like a letter of recommendation, your CV, a letter of intent. It's 3 letters of recommendation. And like your company interest form where you indicate like the companies that you're still, so-called in the running for. And then afterwards, usually like the next week, but it really depends, you'll be contacted, and this is for Rutgers specifically, it can be a little bit with other programs. Both Rutgers, usually you'll get a call or you'll be contacted, about in the next week, asking you to come in for an on-site interview, and those usually occur in the beginning of January. And then after, it depends on how many people each position brings on for an on-site. But after you go in for the on-site and you meet people, it's usually like an all-day interview. You're kind of far away, they'll like bring you in. And then after that, usually you'll hopefully get an offer. And then it's not like a match with a residency where you rank and they rank or anything like that. It's more of a traditional like job offer, so you can get like multiple offers from companies, and there's some like time restrictions, but it's nice with Rutgers. The programs really work together, so you'd never be put in a situation where it can be very difficult for you to be put in a situation where, say, you were waiting to hear from another company, and the first company says, oh, well, you have to tell us like tomorrow if you're accepting. Like that won't happen within Rutgers programs, and they kind of coordinate it to give you time and kind of find the program that fits the best for you. If you have multiple on-sites. And then it's nice because it's usually wrapped up like January. I think I knew like mid-January, so it's nice compared to the match where you're finding out like end of March. So you kind of know pretty early on what you'll be doing, and then you can kind of plan in terms of moving and stuff like that. So did you want to add anything else, Joe? Or?
Sure. For the P4s on the call and in the room, after mid-year, it's super important to get your materials posted to the Rutgers portal, and as well for the other programs too, but specifically for Rutgers. If you want to hear back about on-sites as soon as possible, you really want everything posted by Wednesday night, or Thursday morning, really, latest I should say. That will allow you to get your on-site interviews scheduled sooner rather than later, and you don't want to be waiting around all Christmas break while all the companies are at home. You want to get those on-site scheduled right away.
I know we kind of went through a lot, so if anybody has any questions about
Just so you can all.
Do any of the companies ever max out with the number of people that they can interview? So if you're like interested in something, is there a possibility that there's no place for an interview for you?
Yeah, unfortunately, that is a possibility. With the non-Rutgers programs, especially, they tend to fill up because people can schedule ahead of time. But even with Rutgers, The more popular areas like med affairs and regulatory affairs, they do tend to fill up. So that's why it's important to show up to mid-year on Friday, where we start on Saturday, so that you can get a decent spot on the line and get all your top choices scheduled.
And I have heard of positions filling up, but I know things have happened. So like actually, when I went for the Merck position interview, it was filled up, and they actually added more interview spots, and I was able to get one, and then obviously it all worked out. So sometimes companies, when they fill up their spots, you can still leave like your CV, and they'll try to like get more interviewers, open up more spots, so there's still like a chance. But I have heard of some people just going, and it was also hard to be able to do it, but I haven't heard that happening a lot. It was somebody who was kind of really far back in line. So I didn't, besides the Merck thing, which was resolved very quickly, I didn't have attention to that. So.
And just so you can all picture the whole mid-year experience, it's just like a huge conference hall, and it's all sectioned into little booths with curtains and tables inside it. And so you're sort of in like there's a tiny little curtained off room with a table, usually two people interviewing you, you're on the other side of the table from them. Sometimes you won't even have that luxury of the curtained off room. You might just be at a table right beside another table, so there's people all around you interviewing. So it is very hectic, and it's really like a once-in-a-lifetime experience to develop your interview skills on the fly.
Shivani?
I was just thinking about what you said earlier. Does the reception like another step in the interview process? Does like your performance with the reception impact whether you get a third round interview, or is it just sort of like a thing on the side to get?
Do you mind repeating the question?
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
It's okay, I got it. So her question was in regards to the reception. Is that another step in the interview process, and how much does that impact your you get receiving an interview or not? A follow-up.
So it's definitely a part of the evaluation process. The reception is. I've seen people blow it at the reception with just not being able to handle the whole situation. We've had people get drunk at the receptions. We've had people that just don't know how to interact amongst other people really, and it's a shame. But that's part of the overall fit between the person and the company. You don't schedule any interviews based off the reception usually. It's sort of at the end of mid-year, but it definitely fits into whether you get an on-site interview.
I agree.
Any other questions?
For the Rutgers interviews specifically, I know there's, I don't know, 100 or something like that. Do any of those overlap with each other in terms for interviewing, or can you interview for like big?
So her question was in regards to the Rutgers specifically. So there's usually about like 100 or so positions. Do any of those overlap with each other interview-wise? Or are you like able to interview with basically whoever you want?
Yeah, it's sort of company specific. For the most part, you will do individual interviews for all 100 positions, but there are some overlap. For example, at Merck, we have an early stage clinical development and a late stage clinical development. So we just do one interview for the first round, and then we'll send you in the right direction after that. And there's some similarities. Novartis just sort of has general first round interviews where it's all hands on deck, and then they'll send you in the right direction to the correct preceptor. But on the contrary, BMS has like 10 different medical affairs positions, and you could interview for all 10 of them if you wanted. Good question, though.
Any other questions in there? Okay.
Oh, yeah. No, you're
So, I don't know how to phrase it. Okay, going into the interview process, like, retrospectively, is there anything you wish you knew that you knew not?
Her question was, going into the interview process, retrospectively, is there anything that you wish that you knew then that you didn't know, that you know now?
I think for me, I was definitely stressed about like the logistics. Like I didn't really understand how the scheduling of interviews worked, and I was really nervous about like not getting a spot and like or not getting interviewed for a position I wanted, or not having enough time. And I feel like that just added a lot of stress of like the unknown. So I wish I kind of knew that it would like all work out, and like the scheduling, like it kind of sounds like a crazy process, but once you're in it, like it's kind of described as like organized chaos. Like it really does all work itself out, and you'll have time for what you want to do, and you'll get the interviews that you are supposed to get. So I think for me, I just wish I worried less about logistical things.
For me, this first one's sort of for the P3s and the younger students. When I was requesting interviews through PPS for the non-Rutgers programs, I kind of waited a bit too long, in my opinion. I'd received guidance that you shouldn't sign up on the first day because you'll look too eager, but that's just not true at all. So I actually missed out on some of the University of North Carolina, UNC, fellowships because they filled up. So, I mean, I don't think it's ever too early to request interviews through PPS. And then for mid-year, really try and be diligent at the receptions and have your whole night sort of planned out. If you're in contention with like 3 different programs, you're going to be running from hotel to hotel to try and get to each of their receptions. So really have your night mapped out so you know when you need to leave each reception. And for the P4s, it's not rude to have to leave a reception. They understand if you're like a top candidate, like all of you Pitt students will be, then you're going to be invited to a lot of receptions, and a lot of companies will be interested in you. And
in regards to a fellow perspective, when you're deciding to advance a candidate forward, is there anything that particularly like that you look for?
Yeah, sure. It does depend on the interviewer and the company. Like a lot of it is your fit with the preceptor and everything. But from a CV point of view, we do want well-rounded candidates. So leadership opportunities are great. Research, if you can do any, it doesn't have to be hardcore research or anything, but any student poster presentations at APHA or ASHP, anything like that. You do want to do your research for sure. Know about the fellowship position, know that brochure front and back, know what's going on with the company. When Allison came into the interview, and it was Merck Oncology. Merck Oncology is basically one drug at this point. I'm sure she knew all about it, and was able to convey that to the preceptor. So we want someone that's enthusiastic. They did their homework, and they have a strong CV.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of that, I know that I know that my preceptor is looking to be like my position is oncology, so her number one thing is for somebody to have like a passion and an interest in oncology. So that's kind of like her number one is to really, have someone who's enthusiastic and wants to be there and, really put the work in because it's something that they're interested in. And then also for me specifically, definitely leadership experience. A lot of it is about fit, so like personality and, having that oncology background. I know in my interviews specifically, like I didn't even really talk, like I had an industry rotation and I talked about that, but I feel like I talked about like my leadership experiences and my like working with like LKS and SSHP. Like I talked about those things just as much, so I feel like I definitely like to see people who are like involved in extracurriculars and things like that. So a lot of the same things. It definitely depends on the position. So like Joe's like clinical development positions look for different things than my like medical affairs position does, and regulatory look for different things, and commercial looks for different things. So it really depends on the position. But things like leadership experience and research and being really enthusiastic, like that's going to work, no matter what position you're going for.
Any other questions?
Okay, I always like to ask people, what is the weirdest interview question that you were asked during your process?
I don't know if anyone in the room knows Sajid Ahmed. He graduated with me in 2014 and did a Rutgers Fellowship as well. He had a great one that I always tell people. One of his interviewers from St. John's University Fellowship asked him, how many cars are on the planet Earth? And the answer is it's not about an actual number, but it's about how you can sort of explain how you would go about calculating the number and thinking on your feet.
So my really weird question that I got was from an MCPHS interviewer, and she asked me what I would do in a zombie apocalypse. So I was not expecting that. I don't watch The Walking Dead. I had like no advantages at all. Kind of just made something up. But yeah, they just want to see like how you'll react. But that was really the only weird one. Like a lot of my other Rutgers interviews, I mean, you get the behavioral interview questions, but a lot of them were just like going through my CV and asking like, oh, I see you did this project. What was that about? Oh, I see you're involved with this club. Like, what'd you do there? You know, what was this presentation about? Like, it was very much just like wanting to get to know me and seeing like the experiences that I had. So I didn't really have a lot of like high pressure, intense interviews by any means. It's more just them trying to figure out like who you are as a candidate. So they're really not there. I didn't really have any interviewers that were trying to really like trip me up at all. So I had a really positive.
Now is the time where you're going to be experiencing a lot of those things you'll talk about in an interview, especially with you're doing more intense work in your P3 year maybe, and then into rotations definitely. So sort of keep a log of it. You know, even write it down. For example, if you and the student like get into a conflict and you're able to resolve it, you know, peacefully and everything, you know, jot it down. That'll be like your go-to experience, and you'll know when it happens, and you'll be like, yes, like I can talk about this in an interview now. And for me, it happened in one of my rotations on block 4, and I was like so happy it happened, and I talked about it in half of my interviews.
Yeah, Joe, just to go over that, Joe actually gave me advice last year when I was going for my interviews. He was like, think about, you know, have a few of those like core experiences that you feel can fit into, you know, a lot of different questions. So I thought about like leadership experiences I had, times I worked on a project, and I thought of a time of a conflict with another student, and like just having those experiences so you don't have to make up an answer for every possible behavioral interviewing question or every type of interview question. You kind of have those like core moments that you can use for different types of things and kind of, you know, make them work for whatever you're asked. And I know that that really worked for me. I can't think of a question I had that I didn't have some sort of answer to.
Yeah, we had a recruiter come into one of our professional development days to talk to us about interviewing, and I like the way he described it. He said you should have a filing cabinet coming out of like the side of your head. I'm not sure if any of you actually know what a filing cabinet is anymore, but anyway, imagine there's different file folders, one for leadership, one for teamwork, communication, and so once that they ask that question, tell me about a time you led a team, the cabinet comes out of your head, and you have like 2 experiences in there you can just go to, and it's not about memorizing answers, it's just sort of categorizing your experiences and being ready to go.
And there are certain questions that you'll definitely get with like a lot of your interviews. So tell me about yourself. So I know at Pitt they kind of talked about having an elevator speech. I don't think I really use like my Pitt format elevator speech, but you definitely want to have like concise, like 30 seconds to a minute sort of synopsis of like who you are, what you've been doing, why you're here. You'll get asked that every interview, and you don't want to be like rambling and look like you don't know what you're talking about, because it should be the easiest question. You just have to talk about you. And then, you know, you always get asked about like strengths and weaknesses. I got a lot of questions about like a conflict, leadership experience, time you like innovated something. So there are questions that I pretty much got at almost like every interview. And like I said, nothing really out of left field.
Do you still use portfolios at Pitt? I know that was a question someone had asked last year. We did a session like this. Personally, the interviews for fellowships, they're so short. It would be tough to have like go through your whole portfolio like they want you to do, like Dr. Harry and all of them want you to do, I guess. But for example, everyone pretty much had like a pad folio or like some kind of like little bag or briefcase with their CVs in them at mid-year. And I brought a couple like select projects with me and pointed to them like quickly during the middle of an interview. That is like an option if you want to, like, if you have like an iPad and you want to show off like a poster you did or something like that. It's not out of the question.
Yeah. I didn't use my portfolio, but I tried to keep up with it, and then it was nice. Like, I think we had to update it during rotation, so it was nice because it helped me like keep track of what I was doing and kind of find major projects that I'd worked on for those examples, and like for even like my CV, because I listed like my projects and presentations separately. So it's helpful from like an organizational standpoint, but like nobody actually ever saw it besides me. So, I don't know.
Any more questions? Shivani, again.
So the first one is like, you said that interview reports like how long would like a good interview be, like without being like too long or like getting answers quickly? And then the second question is like what are the components of cost to avoid in the interview?
Okay, so the first question she asked is how long about is a good interview per se, and then her second question was what are some common pitfalls during the interview process.
Sorry, what was the first part?
Her first question was
How long does a good interview normally last?
I forgot. How long does a good interview normally last?
For the most part, everything's on a pretty tight schedule at mid-year, so it'll pretty much be half an hour, I'd say. That is something you have to be careful about. If it is going well, maybe the preceptor does try and like keep talking just because it's so natural. But if you have another interview coming up, you got to be make sure you make that. And then pitfalls. Some people are too modest or maybe not opportunistic enough. If you have some great experiences that you want to talk about, don't wait for someone to ask you about it just because it's on your CV. Like, be sure in that 30 minutes, if there's something that is going to really make your candidacy, be sure to tell them proactively because they might just look over it on your CV or not get to it.
Yeah, along those lines, I think it's something that I didn't realize was like your entire story and you're handing your CV, which has everything important. So you just kind of think that the interviewer will automatically like understand you and know everything that you've done. But like the interviewer is looking at your CV for the first time when you walk in, aka they don't have time to look at it at all. So it's really important to get the important stuff on the first page, and also like you need to explain things. You can't assume that they understand, a rotation that you had, or they know what the certain club is or something like that. Like you really have to take the time to make sure that, like, to kind of orient them to who you are and kind of like the things that you've worked on, because we literally have no time to really look at your CV like at all, at least during that first interview, where you want to make a good impression.
And back to the CV, make sure you have people review it, and multiple people. Like I'm going to sign Allison up right now. Send your CV to Allison or send it to me or Jocelyn. We'd be happy to help out Pitt. Yeah. We want to keep this wave going. Pitt is taking over pharmacy fellowships. Let's do it. So people, like, you'd be shocked, but people do judge a book by its cover. I do suggest putting it on decent paper and making sure it looks nice. You could have all the best things on your CV, but if the first impression isn't there, then your ranking is just slightly lower off the bat. So send it to fellows, send it to residents, faculty, all those folks.
Yeah, and like the Rutgers fellowship process is so fast-paced that sometimes, unfortunately, it is all about those like first impressions and what they see in your CV and kind of what they get from the short amount of time that they have talking to you. So it's really in your best interest to make sure that everything involved with that first impression is positive, so you can really kind of show who you are and they're not held up by like something else. Because it does just move very, very quickly, and you meet a lot of people and they meet a lot of people. So it's really all about like standing out for the right reasons, which is easier said than done, but that's really the name of the game.
So how many copies of your CV do you bring with you, and do you need anything other than that? Do you bring business cards and stuff too?
I think it definitely depends on how many positions you're applying to. So I think I was applying to 10 positions total between like Rutgers and non-Rutgers. And I believe I brought 60 copies of my CV, and I definitely had some left over. But the good thing is if you print the copies and you have extra, like hopefully you'll need them for on-sites and things like that, or other interviews. I'm sure some went to waste, but it's better to just err on the side of caution rather than be worried that you're running out. And then I had business cards. I had like 500 printed before mid-year, and I like attached them to all of my CVs. Like I paperclipped my CV and then had the business card in there, but I know a lot of people that didn't do that, so it's really personal preference. And then I also put a business card in like every thank you note that I wrote, and you give them out when you're like talking to people. So I definitely went through a lot of business cards, so definitely have those for sure. And then I also had like a calendar, a day calendar, where I like wrote down all of my interview times to like stay organized.
Yeah, great point, Allison. Definitely stay organized. You mentioned thank you notes. I would definitely bring, especially for this year, I would bring paper thank you notes. You can also email thank you notes, but there's a good chance you might not have everyone's email that you interviewed with. So I would be prepared to handwrite thank you notes for some of your interviewers. At least at Rutgers, we're fine with people emailing them. It's less stuff for us to take back from New Orleans. But again, you might not have everyone's business card and email address. And I definitely recommend business cards, and it sounds like Allison does too. It sort of gives you that extra polish.
And they don't have to be super fancy. Like I went on, what's that like business card website where they always have commercials? Something. Vistaprint. I went on Vistaprint and I copied like the Pitt Pharmacy logo from like the website and put it on a card and made it like navy and gold and wrote my name. It was like super simple. Probably cost about $15. And like went crazy, got like the fancy gloss on the front, and like that was it. So it's not, you know, a huge commitment to do them. And I talked to people, like we have a recruitment event, so Fellowship Information Networking Day, that was back in November. And I talked to people, and like the people who had their business cards, and I liked them, I kept track of those business cards. Like I have those business cards. But there were other people that I spoke to that didn't have a card, and so I don't remember who they are, and I don't have their name. So especially at that event, it made like a huge difference of who had a business card and who didn't. At mid-year, it's a little more like you can keep track of people because you have like their CV and stuff, but it's still, I think it's helpful.
Yeah, no, Rutgers sent me to EPA, like mid-year conference one year, and I met Vivian Nguyen there, who's a P4 now, and she gave me her business card. She was a P3 at the time, and it's been in my desk for, I don't know, 12 months now. So at least I remember her name very well, and I actually knew Vivian ahead of time, but I have a whole stack of business cards. Definitely recommend it.
So when do you actually give them a thank you card? Do you have it pre-written, or like when do you see them later, like at the reception or something like that?
So yeah, this is like one of the worst parts of mid-year, but after you interview for like 8 hours straight, you kind of just like sit down outside the interview area and write these thank you notes, and then it's the last thing you want to do because you're so tired and you like have more receptions to go to later, and then you write them and drop them in a bin by the interview area. So no, you don't have to hand them directly to the person. They get sorted out.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay, go ahead.
What's the percentage of people who get like second round interviews?
Do you have any idea what the percentage of people that get first round, second round, third round on-site interviews?
So the overall ratio of candidates to accepted fellows for Rutgers is 7-to-1, which is actually not terrible. And so that's just Rutgers. So some of those, I think last year it was like 470 to 70. That's about 7-to-1. And then some of those 470 got positions outside of Rutgers or ended up doing residencies or whatever it may be. So it really might be closer to like 5-to-1 actually getting positions, which are pretty good odds. Because you got to think there's a lot of lousy candidates out there that didn't go to a great school like Pitt and have a million extracurricular activities, blah, blah, blah. I mean, obviously, going to the second round is easier than making it to the third round, et cetera, getting an on-site. I know at Merck, we usually take 5 people on-site for each one position. So it's about 20% if you make it to that point.
And it's hard to kind of give a number like that because it's like every position is different and your experience with every position is different. So it's not like if you're successful in one position that you're going to be like everybody's going to want you. Like it's very different. Like I know people who like wanted my position and didn't get an on-site, and I wanted their position or like their position, didn't get an on-site there. It's like very subjective. So it's, you know, you'll have candidates that do really well and get like multiple on-site offers and things like that. But a lot of times it's really just like where you fit. So I mean, there are a few candidates that are like universally great and they get like 1 billion on-sites, but a lot of time it's just people finding like the right area for them.
Okay. Any other questions at all?
In terms of interviewing for different positions within the same company, do you guys talk to each other at all to make a decision, or is it like strictly that preceptor who ultimately decides that if you have a bad interview with one position in Merck and then go interview at another position in Merck, is that going to interview anything?
Did you hear her question?
Kind of.
I'll just repeat it. So in terms of regarding to applying to multiple positions in the same company, do the preceptors and the fellows talk to each other? So if you were to have a bad interview with person X, would that translate to person Y, or is it individually like decided?
Yeah, so within the same company, definitely the preceptors and fellows and everyone, they're talking. They only want, if they think there's a bad egg, they don't want them at the company at all, even if it's not in that position. And then within the Rutgers program and within the other programs as well, there is some chatter that goes on, nothing too much, but if something really bad happened, like, I don't know, if you like insulted one of your interviewers, you better bet that the other companies are going to find out. People tend to talk about the bad things, not the good things. If they think you're like an amazing rising star, they might not share that with the other companies because they don't want the other companies to steal you from them. But definitely within the same company, they're talking.
And I think that people talk, like if, you know, a Pitt student was going for a position at another company and they knew that I went to Pitt, like it's completely normal for them to ask me, like, oh, do you know this person, do you know John Smith, what do you think? You know, even if it's not, you know, if I don't have anything to say, I won't say anything, but people do talk and like ask people's opinions. Or somebody, like a student was there on rotation, like I had students at Merck on rotation, and I told them, like, let me know what companies you're interested in, like I'll talk to the fellows and like put in a word, because like I knew that student was great and I would like advocate for that student. So I think that people definitely do talk, and usually it's to your advantage. Like I don't know, I think in order for somebody to talk about a bad interview, it would have to be like really, really bad. I think. I don't know, Joe. Like it would have to be
happened last year.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
We do have one request. If you guys would be willing to do another kind of webinar for on-site interviews later on.
Yeah, when would you want to do that?
I will get specifics from the P4s that are interested. But
Okay, yeah.
I know they're really interested in finding out more about what actually goes on the on-site interviews.
Okay.
So I'll let you guys know about that. Any other questions, though, from anyone else in the audience?
If I can,
Okay, well, thank you both so much for coming and talking to us. I really appreciate it. And we will make sure to follow up with you about that second round of webinar.
Yep. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Bye, Jen. Bye, Jen.